Welcome, everyone, to this JUMP academic webinar using JUMP's teaching and learning resources, part one. I'm Ross Matusalem, a JUMP academic ambassador. I'm just here to host today and field questions in the Q&A as we go along. My colleague, fellow academic ambassador Kevin Pockner is going to be delivering the webinar. And today's webinar is all about teaching and learning resources, as the title suggests. Now, if you teach with JUMP software or are considering doing so, I hope you know that you can get free JUMP software for academic use. It's called the JUMP Student Edition, and it's available at jump.com/student. So you and your students can both use this software in your course, and it's completely full-featured interactive point-and-click data analysis software. But in addition to the software, you might not realize that JUMP produces a range of teaching and learning resources that you can use to enhance your course. And today, Kevin's going to tell us about a number of these resources and how to use them effectively. Before we get started, I want to encourage all of you to ask any question you might have, big or small, as we go along. Please type your questions into Zoom's Q&A window. I'm monitoring the Q&A and I'll answer questions in real time. For some questions that make sense for Kevin to answer live, we'll go ahead and let him handle those. But please do submit your questions to the Q&A. It makes it easier to manage the questions, see which ones have already been answered, also to be able to easily display the answers to you all. So even if you don't ask a question, you might want to pop that Q&A window open to see what other people are asking and what answers we have for them. Feel free to use the chat to just make general comments to Kevin, me, or to the group as a whole, but put those questions in the Q&A. So with that, Kevin, I'm ready to hand it off to you.
All right, can you hear me and see the screen?
We sure can.
Okay, so as Ross pointed out, this is a two-part series and of showing our resources. So because of that, if there's a question about a resource that we're going to show in the next webinar, then I might hold off and wait until then, and encourage you to attend that one as well. So I love talking about our resources. It's actually one of my favorite things when sharing what our academic team provides. We want to make it very easy for you to use JUMP in the class. And so these resources, to me, there's actually two purposes of the resources. One is this provides you with a whole collection of content that you can direct your students to for the purpose of learning, so you don't have to create any of that yourself, nor in some cases spend any time in your lectures showing how and following through the instructions of how to run an analysis in JUMP. You can just point them to our resources. So that's a great advantage. The other thing is, well, these are for you to learn as well. So when you're learning a new platform in JUMP, you want to understand JUMP a little bit better, then use these resources for yourself to learn. In my first teaching job at the University of Florida, I was teaching in the stat department there in the late 90s. And I remember this one professor who I was sort of teaching a large section with. And this is my first faculty job. And he has sort of had this joke. He says, well, you know what you have to do when you're a professor is you have to convince your students you've known something all your life that you just learned last week. So with that in mind, I said, use these resources to help you get up to speed with using JUMP. Now, I have here on the screen a journal, and this journal is going to be placed on our webinar library, or you'll be able to access it from our webinar library, including a recording of this. But all that these buttons are links to what I'm going to show you. So it's probably not necessary that you actually use this journal to get to the resources, because I'm going to show you how you find them. So right now I'm on the jump.com homepage, and there are a handful of places where you can learn how to use JUMP. In fact, under this for users, this is learn to use JUMP section. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct you to the academic portion of the website. And the reason why is we have spent time curating the resources that are really targeted for using JUMP in an academic environment. So this is the direction I'm going to go, even though you can get to other resources here. Okay, so I'm going to click on JUMP in Academia. Now we have this broken down into faculty, researchers, and students, I'll be able to get to all the same resources, but sometimes we curate stuff a little bit. In fact, when I hit course materials, which is where I'm basically going to show you where you're going to access all the resources, it first sends you to this page which lists out courses, and it's just because we've curated the resources a little bit, but it doesn't actually matter which one you click on because you will be able to get to all of the resources. We just sort of curate a little bit. So I'm just going to click on intro stat, but again, it doesn't actually matter. You're going to get to a page that looks like this, where you'll see a whole bunch of panels of resources. I'm not going to be showing all of these. Some of them I'm going to show in um, the next webinar on our resources, but I'm going to step through a couple here. So I'm going to start with this one right here, which is we call them step-by-step guides. These are basically very short videos and instructional guides on how to run a specific analysis in JMP. Now, if you click on this view recommended guide, this is how we're tailoring it to the specific course I went into. But I typically just click on view all guides and videos because we have these organized by statistical methods. So everything from starting off at the top with using jumps, you can learn things like importing data or cleaning up data or saving your results and just navigating through JMP all the way to, well, just kind of creating graphs and visualizations. You see, it tends to get a little bit more advanced as it goes along, like basic inference, regression, data mining, predictive modeling, and design of experiments. Now, version 19 of our software is coming out in a couple months. And one of the things we're doing is we're expanding these short videos and instructional guides. So there's actually going to be more in a few months. So what is the purpose of these? Well, I'm just gonna open up one so you can see. So let's say in a particular week in your course, you're teaching the inference for the mean, like the one sample t-test. Well, we've got a guide for this. And if you click on it, you are going to get to this page here. There tends to be a little bit of description on the top, just explaining what this method is used for. You'll probably know that, but for your students, that's very helpful. Actually, I'm going to back up for 1 second here, and I'm going to go and hit sort of this main heading. And so this could be helpful for people new to JMP because you can and new to some formal statistical analyses because you'll see descriptions of what that method is used for. So I'm going to click on the one sample t-test. Now, one of the things is a printed guide. And so I'm going to click on this and open up this little guide here. Now, we also call these one-page guides. So the instructions all fit on one page. These are not meant to teach you or the students about what the t-test is. It's really meant to, when you want to run this analysis, these are the instructions to follow. Now there'll be a sample data set. These are in our data set library, just so you can, if you want to follow along and use the same exact data set. And as you see, actually, let me make this just a tiny bit bigger here, just so you can see it a little clearer. So it will sort of describe what this method is for, and it will show you the instructions, open up this dialog box, fill in this dialog box this way. It will talk about some of the output, so it will show samples of output. Now, it doesn't often get into much interpretation, but sometimes it does. So there'll be a little discussion of how you interpret the output. And there's usually something about other options that are available. So trying to direct you to things under the red triangle. There's also usually a sentence at the bottom that's showing you where you can learn more in our help documentation. And then what also comes with this is a video. And again, these are meant to show you the instructions. Some students like to use the video more so than the printed guide. I'm just going to play a few seconds of this just so you can see what they sound like, and hopefully the audio comes through. We'll see here.
In this video, we will look at one method for performing a one-sample t-test and obtaining one-sample confidence intervals. I'm using the car physical data dataset available in the sample data directory. To start, we'll go to the Analyze menu and select Distribution. The distribution platform is useful for visualizing and obtaining summary statistics for any type of variable you have. In order to get a one-sample t-test or confidence intervals, we must provide a column that is continuous in nature, that is, one of our columns with a blue triangle. Here, I'll select Turning Circle and cast it into the Y columns by clicking Y columns. When I click OK, JMP will produce the distribution output showing the histogram for Turning Circle, quantiles, and summary statistics. If we prefer our histogram to be horizontal, we can go to the red triangle next to Distribution and select Stack. By default, JMP will print out the upper and lower 95% confidence limits on the mean, here ranging from 38.01 to 39.16. Our obtained sample mean of 38.586, of course, is right in the middle of this interval. To perform a one-sample t-test, we can go to the red triangle next to Turning Circle and select Test Mean. Test Mean allows us to specify a true standard deviation if we know it, in order to compute the z-test. If we don't know the true population standard deviation, we can leave this blank and specify our hypothesized mean. In this case, let's assume our hypothesized mean under the null hypothesis is that Turning Circle should have a mean of 40. When I click OK, JMP will return the t-test showing the test statistic, two-tailed p.
Okay, so you get the idea, and so now you just direct your students to these specific pages. You can put it on your course page on the web, or other means that you direct your students to this type of content. I think there's about, I want to say maybe 80 or so, somewhere around there. And as I shared, we're going to be adding a handful more. So you're going to see this expanded quite a bit. One of the areas we're trying to expand is this graphical displays and summaries. So as I said, this is where say in the beginning of your class, you can direct your students to some of this basic stuff here, like how do you open up a data file? How do you save your work? How do you maybe clean up some data? What are the different buttons and menu bars in JMP? Even things like integrating JMP with Python, or we've got these new things called presets. And so this is a lot of content that you can use and direct your students to, so you don't have to bother creating any of that. Okay, so I'm going to back up here. Let me close this page. The next thing I'm going to show you is our webinar library. So I'm just going to go to this panel right here, and I'm going to click on View All Academic Webinars. I don't remember the total count here, but you can get a sense of the size of these. So this is where this recording is going to appear in a few days. And so you'll see a link here that will be teaching and learning resources. So if you look at this, you'll see everything from, say, this intro to using JMP. So this one here for intro to JMP for teachers, if you're new to JMP, this would be a great place for you to start. This one here, Intro to JMP for students, this is a great place to get your students to go to learn, get up and running and using JMP and navigating JMP. So again, I know a lot of professors, what they'll do is at the beginning of their course, they'll direct students to say this webinar right here and say, hey, everybody in the first week of class, go through that webinar, because you don't want to spend time in class showing people how you open up a data file and save your work and stuff like that. We've already created that. So you'll see a wide range of topics here, right? Some of them are advanced, very specialized techniques. Some of them are more broad and general, like essential statistical tests, data visualization, data exploration, producing publication quality graphs. And then again, you'll see very, very specific things like mixed models or survival and reliability analysis. So depending upon what you're teaching. And as I said at the beginning, this is really great for you to use so you can learn all that JMP can do in specific platforms. In fact, other than this first one, the audience for these webinars are like, well, what we're doing right now. We're speaking to the teacher, right? So not all of these are designed to direct your students. So even though you certainly can, right? You can direct your students to any of these that make sense. Okay, I'm going to back up here. And the next thing I'm going to show you is our case studies. And I'm going to click on view the entire case study library. We have 64 of these. So when you scroll down, you'll see a bunch of panels where a little bit of a description of what this problem is about, the application. You can kind of tell that from the image. Now, at the very top, there are some controls so that you can filter this list of 64. So you can pick, for example, a particular discipline. So if I click on engineering, these case studies are going to be ones that you would see in an engineering application. Um, you can also filter by course. Okay, so if you're teaching a regression class or you're going to be covering regression in your class, you can click on this one, and then those are filtered by case studies that talk about using regression. And what I'll do is I'll open up one of them just so you can see. And so I'm going to click on this. And so one is there's a bit of a description about what this problem is about. So you can read this to see, okay, is this a good application for my class? Is it showing the kinds of statistical tools that I want to see? And then down the bottom is where you download the data and the case study. And now I already did that, so I'm just going to um, open one of the, oh, actually, I didn't do it to this one. Okay. Okay, so this will be a PDF file. And the way we set these case studies up is we start off with describing the problem, right? So in the context of an engineering application. And these are great because this is where you can help your students see a problem in action, right? What kinds of problems when they get out and work that they'll be applying statistical methods to. So there's a bit more of a description than you might see in a classic homework problem at the end of a chapter in a book. So this one happens to be about a new semiconductor process, production line getting set up. And you'll see things like, well, how is the data collected? What are the specifications on this process? What are the engineers trying to answer? What kinds of questions, what kind of problems they're trying to solve? So there'll be usually just about a page and a half of a description of the problem and the tasks at hand. There'll be a little description of the variables in the data set and um, how, the units of measurement or the range of measurements. And this particular case study, there's a set of production lines. And so you see this production line A, B, C, all the way to production line G. And what the case study will do is it will demonstrate some analyses. And so this particular case study is doing a bunch of analyses on production line A. Okay, so there'll be, well, let me make that a little bit bigger. You don't have to read it while I'm going through this. You'll just get the idea. So this one is stepping through analysis. And so it starts off with, oh, well, let's graphically, numerically summarize the data. So in addition to sort of framing it as what are we trying to answer, why would we do this analysis, you'll also see the jump instructions written right here. Okay, so this way it'll show your students how to run that particular analysis. Then it actually interprets it. So you'll see maybe a brief paragraph or two describing, okay, what are we learning from this particular piece of output? And so as you see here is a histogram and some specification limits. And so it's comparing the variation to those limits. Okay, it talks about it. And it's kind of moving along in the analysis. And this one happens to have some comparative analyses in here and so it's showing a histogram and some comparative dot plots. Again, you've got the jump instructions right underneath. It's interpreting the output. Okay, here's another graph that's being made to look at the variation in this variable etch rate over time. This particular case study goes into control charts. And so again, it's explaining what are we trying to answer with this particular analysis. So here's creating an X bar and S chart. Again, you've got the jump instructions. You've got a handful of paragraphs interpreting the output. Okay, here's another control chart. This particular problem is just breaking down what the different subgroups are. So you're looking at, say, within wafer variation or between wafer variation. Again, you got the jump instructions, you got interpretation of the output. This one goes into process capability. So it runs a process capability analysis. Now, it's for many of these, if we're sort of introducing a topic, there'll often be some content providing some description of what those analyses are for. So this one's getting into showing what the formulas are for capability analyses, describing how you interpret them, what's the purpose of it. So again, this is great to complement what you're doing in class. And so we'll run some capability analyses, say some more output, summarizes the results, and then at the very end, there is some exercises that you can assign to your students for a homework assignment or team activity, or maybe you just want to use these exercises to demonstrate and teach this concept in class. Now I'm going to go back here. Again, this is where you would download the data sets, and I'm going to go back to the case study library. Now, you might want the solutions to those exercises. And so on this main case study library page, you click on this link and you just fill out a form to request. We obviously just need to verify that you in fact are an instructor and you're not a student asking for the answer. So when you fill this out, usually within a day or two, we'll respond to you. Again, we just got to verify that you're an instructor, and then we'll send you a PDF file that steps through the exercises. So when you look at these, you'll see a wide range of statistical methods, but also application areas. I'm going to go back to this main course materials page. And the next resource I'm going to show you are these enhanced data sets. So these are actually similar to the case studies. There's just one major difference, but you'll see in a moment how they're similar to the case studies, so you can use them for the same purpose. So right now there are 35 of them, but we always add, we're always sort of frequently adding them. Now, right now, we don't have filters on these. We will eventually, so you'd have to kind of scroll through. We have these organized from basic to advanced. So as you move through these, you'll see they start off with things like just graphical analyses, summary statistics. Then it starts getting into inference, and you'll see regression. And as it moves through, it's sort of organized in that way. And the one at the very bottom is a design of experiments. Most of these are your standard methods you'd be teaching in a stat class, like ANOVA, regression. Now, when you click on one of these, it will download. I'm going to open one up here. So this one here is about math and reading scores. So it starts off very similar to the case studies in the sense that it defines the problem. And so this one happens to be about data on math and reading scores of fourth and eighth graders, and it's part of something called the nation's report card that the education department puts out from survey work they do. So it will describe the problem, why we're doing this, a description of the variables. But unlike the case studies, what it does is it jumps right to the exercises. And so it's kind of stepping you through that workflow when you're analyzing data. So it usually starts off with like, okay, let's make some graphs, some basic analyses. And as it goes on, it's sort of it's unfolding, right? There's a question framed, and you'll see the jump instructions. So some of them will be very detailed instructions. Some of them just say hint, use this platform, or give a few tips. But some of them, this happens to be one of them, there'll be very detailed instructions on what to click, what platform to open up. Now, some of them, and this happens to be one of them, you can actually go, and let's open this up here. So this actually sends you to the web page where the data comes from. And well, there's a couple purposes of this. One is you can maybe open up the report. So you can go and open up the report and you could sort of show students like, hey, this is why this analyzing this kind of data is important. This is why doing analyses would be used by, the Department of Education, the government to decide upon funding. So if you really wanted to enhance this, you can go here and find some content that are worth like, hey, let's read the executive summary of this report, and then we can kind of pair up the analyses we're doing to the results in the report. The other purpose of this is we may not have the data always current, because if it's data, like in this case, that's being created, well, they actually do this every other year, not every year. But maybe the enhanced data set we have ends on a particular year. Like I think this one ends on 2022, and you might be like, oh, well, the 2024 numbers have been published. I'll add that to the data file. So there's some of these that actually go to the source of the data. So you can tell by just the name. We're trying to give a very long descriptive name, so you can see by the name what it's about. So here's one on semiconductor or a pharmaceutical manufacturing. Here's sleep and gestation in mammals. So there's going to be a biology, ecology. Here's an agriculture one, kind of a health science one. There's a consumer research sensory perfume study. So just from the name, it's telling you what the application is about, and then the text underneath is where you're seeing what statistical methods are there. So between the case studies and enhanced data sets, you see that you've got some great content to illustrate the concepts and techniques you're teaching, and you can help your students see those applied to real problems. Maybe you use them just to demonstrate in class. Maybe you give them out as projects, assignments, homework. Now, with all that said, we're always looking to add new case studies and enhanced data sets. So if you have a data set that you think is really good and you use in your class, and you think, hey, I'd like to let other faculty use this as well, contact us and we'd be happy to work with you to create one of these. Now, we wouldn't be asking you to write the case study or the enhanced data set. We would do that, but we would just want to understand the variables, understand what the data is about, what kind of analyses you show. We might want to ask you to review it to make sure it's capturing what you think are the main concepts you want to teach. So if you have any great data sets, please contact us. Would love to create these resources and share them with other faculty. Okay. Let's go. Oh, let's go up here. I'll show you. We have books. Now, we have two types of books that we have here. So one collection of the books we're showing are traditional textbooks, but that feature JMP in the book. So let's say, for example, I'll click on this one, business statistics, and see where it's sending you. Okay, so sometimes these are going to be sending you to the publisher. And so you can go here to learn more about the book, like looking at the table of contents. But this particular book is going to feature JMP output and JMP analyses. So some of these here are textbooks. The other thing that's here, we're calling them reference books. Basically, these are books that we produce, and you'll see the JMP logo at the top, or you might see a SAS logo. And so I'll click on just one just so you can see. So this is JMP Essentials. And so these are books that we put together. So even though they're teaching some concepts, the bulk of the content in the book is about running the analyses in JMP. So these might be great for you to pick up so you can see what the different platforms do. But, why not share with your students and say, hey, go here. And if you want to grab a book to enhance your learning, there's always a handful of students who want to go the extra mile and learn more. You can direct them to that. And we've got, you can get an actual printed version and also an online version. And so I said you'll see a mix of textbooks and reference books here. I'm going to back up. And I'm going to show you this section right here on our on-demand courses. Now, we are in the process of taking all of the courses that we would teach out in industry. There's quite a bit here, so I'm going to click on View On-Demand Courses. So these are courses that we used to teach out in industry. I mean, they're still taught out in industry, but now we're providing online versions of them for free. Now, this is one here actually, which might be good if you're brand new to JMP. This might be good for you to start with, but again, you could also direct your students to. So I'm going to click on this one just so you can see where it sends you. Okay, it actually sends you to our community. Now, I don't remember how long this particular course is, but this is meant, well, as the name implies, getting started with using JMP. So it's going to show you how to navigate JMP, the components of the data table, some tools of how you clean and prepare data, some basic analyses, saving your results. Again, this one's not going to be advanced. This is kind of how to get up and running. So this might be one that similar to so that intro webinar, you might ask your students, hey, in the first week of class or the first week or two of class, go through this getting started with JMP web course. You don't want to spend time in your class showing them how to save work, open up files, and all that. Just direct them to this course. And again, if you're brand new to JMP, this might be a great place for you to start. Now, we have a range of courses. This one here is called Statistical Thinking for Industrial Problem Solving. And I'll click on this. This is one that gives an overview of the common methods that are used out in industry. So these are sort of almost standard lectures. I'll just open up one just so you can see. I'll go to this regression one. Oh, let me see what it does here. A little sample.
In the correlation and regression module, you learn how to use scatter plots and correlation to study the linear association between pairs of variables. Then, you learn how to fit, evaluate, and interpret linear and logistic regression models. Regression analysis is one of the most important and widely used statistical tools. In this module, you learn how to apply regression analysis to explore and explain the relationship between input variables, or predictors, and your key output, or response variable.
Okay, so you see it sort of looks like a traditional lecture, right? We got that little character there. And so in addition to describing what each chapter is about, you actually get this estimated time to complete it. And it's in between the lectures, it actually will demonstrate how you run a specific analysis in JMP. So you'll get the JMP instructions. There's a couple quizzes that happen along the way. So you may, oops, let me go back there. So you may find that, hey, you know what? These are some nice lectures. I'm going to use it to supplement your own lectures. And so I know professors that use this in a couple ways. One way they do that is they're like, wow, they can't cover everything they want to cover in lectures. So sometimes they'll do kind of an overview in their class time and then have the students watch some specific sections or chapters as a way to get a little bit more of a thorough lecture on the topic. So you might watch these and be like, wow, these are great. I'm going to complement the work that I'm doing. The other way I've seen professors use this is I tend to see this more in graduate programs, but there's a bunch of professors I work with who, let's say it's one is at Berkeley in a food process manufacturing graduate program. Well, there's a lot of courses they have that fill up their curriculum, and they don't have the room to put in a statistics course, right? That's kind of common in graduate programs. And The unfortunate part of that is students are kind of on their own to learn statistical methods, right? Because there might be a lot of lab activity, and instructors are like, oh, I wish my students understood design of experiments better. But other than introducing it maybe here and there, like we can't have a full course. And so there's a handful of professors I know that actually have their students complete this or any of the other on-demand courses. This is one I know it's very popular. They'll have them complete this at the beginning of the course as a way to like, okay, you're going to learn statistics on your own. Jump has put these great lectures together. You're required to watch these, and you get a little certificate when you complete it. So the instructor, you'll as an instructor, you'll know that they actually did it. And so I know professors who actually use this as the course in the curriculum as opposed to them teaching one themselves. So that was this particular one called Statistical Thinking for Industrial Problem Solving. We've got one on ANOVA and regression. We've got a few on design of experiments, one on quality control. So I don't remember how, let me see if it says this. I'm just clicking the course. I want to see if it mentions, sometimes it might mention how many hours it takes to complete. So again, these are great for you to learn and also your students to learn, and you can just direct students to specific chapters. Now, the other thing that's nice about this, and I'm going to back up here, back to the resources page. Right next to the on-demand courses, you'll see this link here that says request course materials. So if you click on this link, you'll be sent to a form, and you can, obviously we want to know who you are. We want to make sure you're associated with the university, and you can request materials for those courses. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what one of them looks like. Let's see here. Okay. So what you'll get is actually our course book, and I'm going to scroll through this kind of fast. I just want you to see. Oh, and you'll also get PowerPoint slides with this. So these are courses that we would teach out in industry. And the reason why these are great is because we have slides already put together, right? So you don't have to do that. So if you go through here, you might see, oh, these are great. I'm gonna borrow this content and use it in your lecture slides. There's a mix of analyzing data, there's quiz questions. And again, these are trying to teach the concepts. These are courses we would teach out in industry. So, oh, there we go, talking about the standard error of the mean. We got formulas. So the course material you may find very helpful, so you don't have to create this yourself. And so again, I know I'm scrolling through really fast, but I just want you to see the range of content: slides, jump instructions, data sets, quiz questions. So that is right here. It says request course materials. Now, as I shared, we have more courses than that's listed here. We're in the process of converting them to online. So you'll see more being added in the not so distant future. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here is oh, you know what? Maybe I might save that for the next. I'm going to save that for the next one. Sorry, I thought of something that I wanted to show, but I'm going to save that. Now, I just want to check in with Ross to see, are you able to address the questions coming in, or is there anything else?
Oh, we have a few questions that I've marked for answering live, but I
Okay.
think it looks like we should have time at the end to address those, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I had to show for this particular session. So let's go to let's go to the questions then, because that might
Okay.
this
Well, I'll let you know. Let's see. One question that just came in relevant to what we were just showing with the statistical thinking course or STIPS. Is it possible to trim the STIPS course if you want to cover just some of the material in your course?
Oh, okay. So, one, the basic way to do it is just by directing to specific chapters, but I actually believe, oh, here it is, right? If you request the teaching materials, what you're going to get with this are slides, the data sets, the lesson plan, and from that, that's Ross, can you remind me, these aren't the videos, correct? You're just getting the materials that go with the video.
Yeah, the idea here, I believe, is you get the slides, the data sets, and so forth, so that you can kind of, let's say, remix them on your own, right? Adapt them so that they're even better suited for your specific course.
Yeah. What I'll do, and I do this a lot when I'm helping in an instructor will send me a question, and I'll say, oh, well, I know that content we cover in a webinar, or it might be covered in a STIPS course. And sometimes when I respond to an instructor, I'm like, oh, this webinar covers it. It starts at minute five and ends at minute 13. And so sometimes I'll just direct. So you could probably do something similar with your students, right? You can say, hey, watch the first 5 minutes of this particular lecture. And I don't think we can direct it at any more level than that, unless I'm missing something. So Ross, if you know.
No, I think that's right, Kevin. And then there was a follow-up question by the same individual, just clarifying then that if you don't require them to complete all the material in a module, then they will not receive the badge, right?
That is correct. That I think you have to complete everything and all the quizzes that go along with it.
Right. Let's see. Going back to a question that came in a little while back, actually, while you were showing the enhanced data sets, and we had also shown the case studies. So someone just asked, would it be, is it a good characterization to say that an enhanced data set is like a case study, but with less hand holding?
Yeah, that's kind of true. I mean, I'll go back and open up that. I'll go open up again one of the enhanced data sets that I had. Hold on, where'd it go? Hang on. Sorry, I just moved that to another location. But I'll go back I'll just click on it from here. Okay. So at one level, yes, but if I go, I'll pick another one here. So this particular one, and as I shared, it goes right from the problem statement to right to the exercises. So you'll see here's one where it might just point you to the particular platform. So this is saying, use the distribution platform. So you'll see this particular one has hints. Oh, this is actually a nice one. You can actually watch a video of the researcher talking about the research, and you can even go and see the actual article, the publication for the research. So here's one where, yes, not as much hand holding for sure, but others you'll see will show this one here. This one happens to be about a company that makes soft drink, doing a study to see if people can test and identify the new formulation. So this is one, I'll make this a little larger. So this particular one, for each question that's being asked, then you'll see some pretty detailed instructions, like literally click here, click the here, put this here, choose this selection here. So here's one that actually has a lot of hand holding. So there's a bit of a range. So I don't want to just say across the board there is more or less hand holding. However, remember, as I was sharing, the thing about the case studies, and let's go back to one of the case studies. I'll open up a different one just so you can see. What the case studies have is part of the data is analyzed. So there's a lot of steps showing the output, interpreting the output. So there's a lot of demonstration along the way. So these could be great in class for you to demonstrate this part in class, and then the students could, of course, read and follow along on their own. And then it goes to the exercises where they're either analyzing a brand new data set, just doing similar analyses, or they're analyzing the more of this data set, or maybe there was more data collected or some new variables or kind of an extension from the part that was demonstrated. So here's an example where the case study, yes, there's quite a bit of hand-holding, but if I go back to the exercises, you'll notice there's no hints or jump instructions on how to do the exercise. So they're kind of on their own to rely on looking back at what was being demonstrated. So it's a little bit of varying degrees of hand holding. So based upon that, you're right, you might select different ones that have more or less hand holding. I see someone asking about sample size estimation. Yes, if I go back to the course materials page and I'm going to click on guides and videos, we have some guides and videos on sample size and power calculations. So I'll just click on this one here, sample size for one sample mean. So in addition to the video, you'll have a printed guide that steps through how you use the platform, how you use the tool. This particular one is actually interpreting results. So it's running through a bunch of what if scenarios and evaluating the power, the relationship between the power and sample size and other assumptions like on the variability. So right now we have power and sample size for the one sample mean, two sample mean, one sample proportion, two sample proportion, and equivalence test on the mean. Now, if I go back to the webinars, I'm wondering, view all academic webinars, that might be tucked into one of these webinars. It wouldn't surprise me. I know there's a webinar on comparative analyses, essential statistical tests. Some of that might be tucked in there, but I'm not positive which ones.
All right. Looks like we have one more question, Kevin. This one, hopefully not to put you on the spot too much, but maybe you can at least provide some quick guidance for how to do this in JMP. This individual has asked, is it possible to create a template table graph bundle in JMP so that individuals, presumably your students, can add values that they've measured in real time? Presumably, they add the values in and then they can just automatically see the graph for the data that they've collected.
You know what? Well, this might be close to what what's being asked here. Let me pull up JMP. Let me see if this kind of gets at it. So I'm going to go new data table. So I'm going to open up a brand new data table. And I'm just going to set this up kind of as a Y-X. Pick something kind of simple. Okay. Now I'm just going to start off with one number here, just to pick something here. Okay. Now I'm going to launch the graph builder here, and I'm going to put, so let's imagine I'm doing a scatter plot. Obviously I have only one, you see only the one value here. Now, I don't know if it's every single platform in JMP, but if it isn't, it's pretty close to every single platform in JMP. But under the red triangle, there's this redo. Under the red triangle. I think with the graph builder. It's already set. Sorry, it's automatically recalculated. So I'm going to put a regression line on here, even though I know this doesn't make sense. Okay. So I'm going to start adding some data. So say Y is, okay, now I only got 2 points here, so I understand not too exciting at this point. So you see I'm just kind of adding some data sets. I'll I'll leave the regression line there. Actually, I'm even going to put the equation up there in the R squared. I can add that to it. So I guess this might be getting at what you're talking about is I can sit there and build this data set and it's updating as I do this. Now, just to show you that that extends beyond the graph builder, I will launch the Fit Y by X platform. And so now I have all the output here, right? Not just a graph, but I'm going to see the ANOVA table. And I'm going to keep on adding some numbers here. And so watch the output. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me make sure it says automatically recalculate. Okay. So as you'll notice that as I add output, you see that as I add data, you'll see that the output, all the calculations and the graph get instantly updated as I'm doing this, and I can kind of watch that happen. Now, for the person that's asking this, in the next webinar, is it on the 10th, Ross? I believe September 10th.
I think that's the date, if I remember correctly. It's 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks now. Okay. I'm going to show a bunch of these interactive tools, applets and calculators. And what I'm doing right now is you see that I'm kind of manually typing in data and watching the output change. We have interactive tools, and say one of them is on regression, where you can actually, not by typing the number, but by actually clicking on the graph. So I can click on the graph and add data points, and I watch all that output change. You'll see the equation change. And so there's a way to help students understand the concept of that go along with regression, like influence and leverage and confidence intervals for the slope, R squared, sampling distributions. And you can manually add data points by clicking on the graph and watching the results change. So it's kind of similar to what I'm doing here, except here I'm actually typing in the numbers, but that applet, actually you do it by clicking on the graph. So that might be getting at, I think, what you're hoping for. Yeah, I know when I teach a concept like this is where I might say something like, okay, let's teach the idea of influence, and I'm going to type in 65. And so you see I'm going to type in a number that's basically right there. And now if the response is, say, 14, and what I'm hoping to demonstrate here is you're going to see that how much that equation just changed, right? So this is where you can go in here and say, well, what if instead this was 9, right? You can see the equation change, the R squared, and then you can say pick a number like right in the center. Let's say I'll pick this one here. And if I change that Y value, say from 13 to 9, it's going to go from here and it's going to drop all the way down to here. And you shouldn't see the slope change that much at all, right? So this, I think I know where you're getting at, and I love doing this kind of stuff. I feel like the way you learn, and this is how I taught myself things in statistics, but I think the way students learn is you change something and then you watch what does or doesn't change somewhere else. So change one metric and see what changes over here. Or in this case, change data, see what metrics change and see which metrics don't really change as you, in this case, I'm moving around different data values. So between doing this manually in any platform by having it open and just making sure you automatically recalculate, on the 10th, I'm going to show some specific tools that kind of help you do the same thing.